are going to do a video today, a Q&A video. We've gotten a lot of questions about our hike, and so we thought we would answer your questions. I have hiked 425 miles.
I've hiked 500.
Yes, I'm a little jealous. So we know that we haven't completed the entire PCT. However, most people don't that start. There's only like 25%, I think is what
We had seen online. Actually,
Yeah.
it shows everything from 14% one year to 35% one year. And anyway, less people complete it, definitely less than 50%.
Yeah. If by chance you're just tuning in to this channel, I had to get off trail due to a stress fracture in my, I guess you could say knee.
Tibial plateau.
Tibial plateau would be the,
Shin bone.
yeah. And
I fractured my distal fibula while I was on trail. Had a helicopter ride, and after 8 weeks got back on trail, hiked for a week, and then decided I really didn't want to continue alone. So we'll have to do some sections or some other hikes together as time goes on, but that's the future.
yeah, anyway, so I'm just going to jump in. I've just got a notebook. I've wrote everybody's questions down, and we'll just jump in and answer these questions the best we can. And the first set of questions comes from a wonderful trail angel we had, Jody. So if you're watching this, Jody, thank you for your questions, and thank you for letting us stay in your home, you and Brian.
That was wonderful.
Anyway, but these are Jody's questions. What spurred you on to do this hike?
I think we actually talked about some of these things in our pre-PCT video.
Yeah, our announcement. Yeah.
video. But what spurred us on to do it was the desire to do something we'd never done before, the challenge of a long distance hike, and one of the other questions, I'm jumping ahead, but the PCT, because we had seen videos and other people hike. We live in the eastern U.S., and the scenery, the environment, the climate, everything out there just was so different, and it doesn't rain as much as it does out here.
So, and neither one of us have ever did a through hike or anything like that. So that was a first for both of us. Was it hard to buy all the equipment?
Hard to buy? No, not really. Expensive to buy?
Yes.
And deciding what to buy. I think that was the hardest thing, because it is expensive, and you don't like just bring it home and decide next week you want to buy a different one, because that's just...
Well, I think the expensive part is that we wanted to do as lightweight. Our packs are lightweight, our tent, like the big three, and those, the pack, tent, and the sleeping system, we wanted to get the lightest, and those are the most expensive. You could definitely do it cheaper if you didn't care about the weight, but your pack weight makes a huge difference, and I think we'll touch on that later on in some of the questions. Okay, so what are some of your favorite pieces of gear?
My favorite piece of gear for most of the trail was truly my pack. I had an REI Flash 50, and it was wonderful. It was comfortable. It had the pockets where I wanted them. It just packed well. I was really happy with that until I had to carry the bear canister, and then I mean, it's only rated or recommended for like up to 25 pounds, and I was definitely well over that with a fully loaded bear can and food and water and all that stuff. So I think that's probably the biggest part of it. But I really did like my pack, and I will continue to use it in general.
Probably one of my favorite pieces of gear. I mean, I liked my pack too. I have a Z-Pax Arcall. I think it's a 55 liter. And I love that pack. It fits me really well. It carried the weight well. But I think my umbrella.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew she was going to say that.
Yeah, and I'll tell
she
you,
needed it.
I mean, there's a lot of varying opinions of an umbrella. You either love them or hate them. I loved my umbrella. I used it, and I learned how to fasten it on my strap and stuff so that it wouldn't, like, it would stay and I wouldn't, I could be hands-free basically. So yes, I love my umbrella. Okay, what would your first piece of advice be for someone considering this hike?
Wow, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute.
I think I would
Watch
say,
videos.
do what?
Watch videos, hike a lot.
Yeah, I would say get some experience, do some shakedown hikes, really put a lot of time and thought into your gear. And I learned a lot from watching other people, really, truly. Um, with that being said, everybody's different, but and try to get your pack as light as you can. If you can invest in light, I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference.
So one recommendation I would have is progressively hiking longer distances with more weight, and train up to weight that's at least 5 pounds or more heavier than what you really think that you would be likely to be carrying once you're on trail.
Okay, so what surprised you the most? For me, I think the people. The people surprised me. I was just surprised at the amount of support and people that wanted to help us. We really didn't want for nothing.
No, people are always offering to help. Other hikers, somebody says while they're sitting at a break and says, I got to get there tomorrow because I'll be out of food, 3 people will say, well, I've got extra this, I've got extra that, And the Trail Angel system's just unexplainable until you're there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is unexplainable. People don't understand. They still don't understand when we talk about it. But the support and the community of hikers is it's just something special. Is there anything?
I think one of the things that surprised me was the beauty. Like every day was something different, but the desert in my head, I was thinking, sand and desolation, and certainly wasn't. There was plenty of flowers, the different types of cactus, things that we're just not familiar with if you live in the eastern U.S. And then when you would change into different areas, how the scenery would change and the mountains would change. I think that surprised me.
What was better than you expected, and what was worse or harder than you expected? So what was better than you expected?
Actually, I slept better, but I don't know if that really applies to the question.
Yeah, I think so.
What was better was how well I did rest on trail, which is not true for everyone, I know, but for me, I slept so good on trail, and here I am. I'm 64 years old. Sometimes I'm hurting when I get out of bed. I sleep on my sleeping pad in the tent, sleep sound all night, and get up and start moving and feel refreshed.
Well, she sleeps, no matter what.
There is that.
I think the scenery was probably better than I expected. A lot of things I had seen from other people's videos, but everyone knows that videos and pictures never do justice. And it was just breathtaking. It was just actually our very last day on trail when you got hurt was absolutely gorgeous. We were hiking and we could see the clouds down below. It was just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hike that morning. Anyway, okay, what was harder or worse or harder than you expected?
Hills.
Yeah.
Really, that was, I had it in my head that because they are a lower gradient than a lot of the trails out here, and that I wouldn't have any trouble with it. And the practice hikes we'd done, I'd gotten stronger, I thought, but the hills kind of kicked my butt all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think the same as you, really. I think.
And the heat.
And
you knew that was going to be it. You were worried about it, but it really kicked your butt.
Well, just the one day was the really bad day when we were coming down from San Jacinto. That was the hottest day for me. I struggled because Honestly, from the beginning, heat was my biggest fear because I do not handle heat well, and I know that about myself. Um, and when you're hot and you have to drink hot water, it's just not pleasant. So, what was your favorite moment overall? I know mine.
Well, go ahead with yours.
I think my favorite moment, one of them. There's probably two, but one of them was I had gotten up and I had left camp before everybody else. I was hiking by myself, which I only did this one time. One time, but I had just started hiking and the sun was, I watched the sunrise, and that was so moving to me. It was just, I was listening to worship music, and I just felt like I had this personal, private sunrise with just me and the Lord, and I was just moved to tears. I mean, it was just beautiful. Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites. And the other one was when Apache prayed with us, and just that was a just
Very
a very
moving.
random, very very just the that whole experience was very moving to me. Yeah.
I definitely agree about that part, for sure. I think one of the other favorite moments, which sounds kind of trite almost, but was when we summited Baden Powell, because we hadn't even planned to do that, and it was such a hard climb in the snow, and we got up there to the top, and it made me feel so satisfied or accomplished or whatever, and the scenery was pretty, and just that sense of accomplishment.
That was a good one too. I would agree with that. Yeah, that was good. Okay, so what was typically your favorite part of the day?
Mornings.
Mornings. Yeah.
When the day is new, it's cool, everything feels fresh, and a lot of times the scenery in the mornings, that morning light scenery, is especially if we were hiking before we actually had sunrise reach into wherever we were hiking. Yeah. Mornings were good.
Mornings were my favorite for sure. And then after lunch, and then I start going downhill. Yeah. Moving on to Nancy. How did the PCT start, and when was it finished? And she looked
So
it
it
up.
has a long history, and you can just Google that for a lot of more detail. But so it was first conceived in the 1930s to have a trail that went from Mexico to Canada. And they started trying to develop an actual trail that used a lot of the other existing trails. So that's where it kind of started. It was designated a National Scenic Trail in 1968 after Congress had the National Trails Act of some sort. And then it was actually finished as a full trail in 1993.
Okay, so who does the maintenance? And then Mary has the next question, and who funds the maintenance? So those kind of go together. Who does the maintenance and who funds the maintenance?
And that's a complicated question.
Yeah.
Because it's most of the maintenance is
Volunteers,
volunteers.
yeah.
Like, I think the PCTA logs over 100,000 volunteers a year. And then there's donations that go to the PCTA, which help fund especially, some of the equipment and stuff like that. Sometimes they have people who are paid to do specific chores that are trail updates or upkeep.
What do the permits cost? Nothing. They don't cost anything to get a permit. Okay. Are there specifications or limitations for what you bring on trail?
Really, the only thing that's specific is the areas that you have to have a bear canister or bear proof system,
Bear safety, bear, yeah.
But otherwise, everything else, what you carry is personal choice. Now,
Jump into, well, this is from our sister. This is from Catherine. She was asking if we would explain the bear canister, since we were just talking about that. When, how, and where you use them. And there's just, if you go to the PCT web page, you can find out that information. Like, basically through the Sierras, you are required to have a bear canister. I'm not sure of all the different locations. I know
Desolation Wilderness, you had to have one. If you go through Lassen National Park, you have to have one if you camp, but not if you just walk through. That's why so many people do that all in one day. And then there's an area of Washington now, I think, that requires it. That was pretty new this year.
Yeah,
But basically, a bear canister is just a hard side. It has to be able to withstand a certain amount of force and not break, and it has to have a bear-proof opening on it so that a bear can't just unscrew the lid, because they can do that. That they can't just get into it easily. And the purpose of it is to basically disassociate people with food or that kind of stuff. So you put your food in the bear container. You helps. Does the bear container control the odors?
I think so.
I think so. It's supposed to, at least pretty much. And if they do try to get into those and can't get into them, then they don't see campers as a source of food.
Explain the resupply. How do you know when and where to get a box, and how do you get a box, and who determines what goes in it?
Well, that's a big question. There's a lot of detail in that.
Yeah.
And since that's what ran me off trail.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't carry enough food for a whole hike that long. So you break it up into smaller chunks depending on where the towns are versus where the trail goes through, and how fast you hike. If you hike 20 miles a day and you want to be out for 5 days, then you can go 100 miles. What town is close to 100 miles up the trail? But if you only hike 10 miles a day and you want to be out for 5 days or carry 5 days of food, then you need to look for a town that's 50 miles up the trail. So you have to kind of have that part figured out. And then you look at the towns near that point. How easy is it going to be to get to a town? If you're going to mail yourself a box, where are you going to mail it to? The post office? Well, then if you get there on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday, you may have to spend an extra day there, because a lot of those rural post offices have really limited hours too. So then you can sometimes send it to a location like a restaurant or a hostel or even a Trail Angel's house, and pick up the box there. Or you can get to town and just go shopping for enough days to your next resupply stop and just fill it up with groceries. And a lot of people do that.
She says, who determines what goes in it?
Wow. You, the individual hiker.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you want?
Yeah. I mean, we put both of our stuff in one box, but I had my stuff and she had her stuff, and so yeah. Okay. Explain how you manage to get rides in town. How do you arrange for rides when self-service is poor, and how do you find places to stay?
There are the Trail Angel pages, which are Facebook pages for different areas that you can find people who maybe can give you a ride. You can say, I need a ride from this location on this date about this time, and I'll be on trail for the next 3 days before I check it, or before maybe I can get cell service. And people will say if they can help you out. You can sometimes at trailheads there'll be listings of people who you can call, but again, like somebody mentioned, the cell signal, like when we got down off of Devil's Slide, when we skipped the San Jacinto, we got down there and there was no cell service at all.
No, we couldn't even use the satellite messaging on our iPhones.
No, it said satellite wasn't available. It was below the horizon. So
yeah, whatever.
There is that. But yeah, so, and a lot of people still actually hitchhike. You're in smaller areas, rural towns. People know hikers. We're pretty recognizable, you know. And so they say it's often not hard to get rides, especially in the small town areas. But I never had the nerve to hitchhike, and we never needed to. So.
We never did. I mean, we never did. We never needed to. As far as finding places to stay, a lot of times on the Far Out app, which is the app that we use for navigation mainly, it will list, like, it has all the towns, and you can go, you click on the town, and then it will show you different places to stay. That's one option.
And you probably saw we stayed in several Airbnbs, which we just looked for the next town that we knew we were going to get off trail at, and looked up Airbnbs for that town. Some of the places we stayed, Rock Flipper, Super Bloom, had stayed on their previous hikes and already knew about specific places.
Yeah, so that's that. All right, so Leslie is saying, what was your scariest moment? That was her question. What's your scariest moment? Honestly, I really was never afraid. I was never scared.
I think my scariest moment was when we were in some of those snow and ice patches, and the one morning we had already sent our microspikes ahead, thinking that we weren't going to need them, and one morning the snow was really frozen and it was slopey, and it made me really, really anxious, and I was really more afraid than I thought I would be. I kind of had a meltdown, but that was probably my scariest moment, and I could have totally prevented that if I had not sent my microspikes off too early.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that was probably the scaredest, is that a word? The most afraid I was. It's because it was icy, and you just knew if you slipped one step. Okay, so Charlie is asking, how many calories do you need to keep up strength for 8 to 10 miles a day, especially in the mountains? Well, I don't know the answer.
There's a nutrition dietitian person, Backcountry Foodie, has a website, and on her site is a calculator for calorie requirements, and it asks you everything from your age and weight to how many miles a day you hike, what altitude you're hiking at, different things like that, what's the gradient of the hike, and it calculates. So I did that at one point, and it said basically 5,000 calories a day. And I do know that I didn't eat. I do know I didn't eat near that, and in the first part of the trip that I was on, and in 7 weeks I lost 12 to 15 pounds. So yeah, I wasn't eating enough calories for sure. I tried to be more conscious of that when I went back, and I had upped my calories that I was carrying. But you know, you carry your food.
Yeah.
And so you tend to not want to carry a whole lot.
Yeah, I know I wasn't eating 5,000 calories. But yeah. Okay, so Renee, here's Renee's questions. And the first part is everything bathroom. Okay. Do you have to pack out your toilet paper, or can you bury it? Well, you have to pack out your toilet paper. Now, on the East Coast, you can bury your toilet paper. Out west, Pacific Crest Trail, you have to pack that out. So what I would do is I would use doggy bags, the ones that come in a roll, and I would just put my toilet paper in the doggy bag, and then I would twist it and put it back down into my bathroom bag. It's my bathroom bag right here. And I keep toilet paper, which honestly I started just using wipes. And I think I would probably just switch to just wipes. They might be a little bit heavier, and then these are the doggy bag thing. And I just put it in here plus hand sanitizer, and then you have to have a trowel, little shovel to dig a hole. So yeah, she asks, did you ever have a problem finding a place to hide to do your business?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Susie, or Dory, she got, what do you want to call it? Busted, snuck up, or not snuck up on, twice by the same person, which was kind of funny. We kind of chuckle about it, but yeah, I mean, there was times when it was hard to find a place, but you know,
everybody has to do it. So.
Yes, everybody has to do it. Everybody's know what you're doing. It's not like a secret. I think you get over that a little bit. You just got to go, and it is what it is. Okay, so I think that covers the bathroom. What were some things that were harder or easier than you expected?
We kind of already talked about that.
Yeah, we did kind of talk about that. What was your funniest moment or experience on trail? Well, I know this really wasn't on trail, it was in town, but Huckleberry, I think I about peed my pants laughing because we were in our room, we were getting stuff packed up for the next day, we were headed out, and I look up and she is literally standing in her pack. She was just cramming everything in there, and she was like standing in it, and it just struck me funny, and I just got so tickled at that. It was hilarious. Yeah, that's probably that I laughed the most on about that.
I'm trying to think.
Getting busted twice, but
the bathroom thing, having somebody walk up and spot me. Yeah, the same person twice.
Well, there's some places that it's just there's really not when you don't have a lot of options. So,
yeah, I mean to clarify, like you get I think I need to go. You start looking, and then I can't wait any longer. I'm going to have to find some place to go, and you're like, I'll just have to make that do, but it's not really completely camouflaged, and
that's what happened. Yeah. Okay. Was there anything you never heard anyone talk about in other people's videos that you wish they had? I don't think people really talk much about like how they find the places that they stay and how they get, like, not a lot of great detail. And even like tent sites, I think. I mean, we looked on our Far Out app to try to find the tent sites, but because we were in a group, that was sometimes a challenge to find a tent site that was big enough to accommodate 5 tents, or and people don't really talk much about that. A lot of people are out there hiking themselves, and it's no big deal. They just, I mean, there's all kinds of places that you could stay if you were by yourself, but in a group it makes it a little bit more tricky. And there was some areas I felt like just didn't have a lot of tent sites.
Right. There are.
Yeah. Okay. And did you use everything you packed?
I did not. I did use most things, but I did not use my waterproof socks. I think that I would have had I gotten on into the Sierras. I do think I would have used them, but I did not use those.
Did you pack those out when you went back out?
No.
You didn't? Okay, so even if you did, was there anything you could have done without to lighten the load? I mean, I've thought about this a lot. I don't know. I feel like I really, really, really tried to think through everything, and everything that I packed, I specifically, I wanted it to be as light as possible. Like, I switched my sleep clothes. I had bought myself a merino wool tops and bottoms, but they were so heavy I swapped that out just to save weight. I mean, I tried hard, and I still think my base weight was around 18 pounds, which I would have loved for it to have been 15 pounds, but yeah, I don't really know what I could have did without to have lightened it. But yeah,
I took a few just in case things, so I guess there was a few other things I didn't use, and I've looked back to I think probably every hiker, backpacker that does any long distance hikes, or not necessarily a through hike, but even for a week, you're going to look for everything. I thought maybe I could have done without this jacket, or maybe I could have done without camp clothes, or maybe I could have done without this. But the truth is, I used it. I was glad I had it, and so yeah. Aside from not using the wet socks, I'm not sure of anything else I would leave behind.
Yeah, I had rain pants and I did use them. I think I only used them maybe twice. One was when it was raining up there near Mike's place that time. I used them and I was glad I had them. I bought myself those mitts, the rain shield mitts, when we were in San Jacinto. Never used those, but
I
yeah,
did use mine.
I did not use them. Okay, and this moves into Jessica's questions, and one of her questions was about our chair. So that kind of ties in with the things that you used or didn't use. And in our gear video, we both showed that we had a chair that Susie had found that was like 2.5 ounces basically, and it was just
It was basically a backrest.
Yeah.
It was a sling type of thing. It had 2 carbon poles on the back that held the back up and gave you something to lean against. And
I used it maybe 3 times, and I started to feel like it wasn't that it was super heavy or anything, but I just felt like I'm not using this. There's no point in carrying it, and so I sent it home.
I kept mine until I lost it, but I was using it pretty often. If there wasn't a good tree to lean up against, I can never get my backpack right to lean against, and I get tired of sitting slumped forward all the time, and I liked having something to kind of be able to lean back. So I did use my chair, and yeah.
Okay, so these are Jessica's questions. Did you ever get bored with your meal options on trail? Yes, Jessica, yes I did. Tuna. I got so sick of tuna by week, I don't know, what
2.
was it, 2? I was so done with tuna. Did you get tired of anything? I
didn't. Actually, there was stuff, we'd be in the grocery store, and I'd be like, next time I'm going to try that. Next time I'm going to, because I think you were shopping for food you wouldn't ordinarily eat in everyday life, in your normal life. And so I just kept seeing things that were different than what I would ordinarily eat. And I never got sick of tortillas. I could still put anything on a tortilla. In fact, it's amazing the things you can put on a tortilla.
Yeah, well, that is true. Well, that ties into the question where she says, do you wish you would have carried a stove when you started? Because we did not. We did not take a stove when we started, and we did that on purpose, I guess, is how to say it. Like, we even did a test hike. Well, when we did the Titcomb in Wyoming, we did not take a stove because we wanted to see what we thought. And I don't regret not having a stove. A stove does give you more options as far as like the dehydrated meals. I do wonder if that would have helped my stomach issues, because I was really struggling with my stomach, having to go to the bathroom a lot. And I think maybe had I had a more hearty meal at night, maybe that would have helped. I'm not sure. But when I get to camp, I am so stinking tired. As crazy and silly as this sounds, I don't want to boil water and then have to wait for my meal to hydrate. I just want to just eat something and go to bed. So I never really missed having a stove. Like, even in the mornings to have hot coffee, I liked the carnation breakfast with coffee in it. Because I wouldn't want to take the time to boil water. As stupid as that is, but listen, most people carry a stove, and most people do. There are not very many people out there that do not have a stove.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people now that cold soak. So there's
yeah, and cold soak to me just doesn't appeal.
Yeah,
I
took a stove when I went back out the last week that I hiked. I took a stove, and we had talked about it. Justin really was hoping for hot coffee in the morning, And so we did do that. I feel like it makes the morning routine take a lot longer if you do that. Anything hot, even just coffee. I mean, we didn't cook breakfast most of the time. We had oatmeal maybe twice, but and then in the evenings, it gave you more variety. I ate things I hadn't eaten before. I ate some really good meals. I enjoyed it, but um, I still wouldn't feel like I needed a stove or that I would always choose to take a stove.
Yeah. There's a lot of, you just have to think about what you like, and you know what's high in calorie, protein is a huge deal. You got to have protein. um, One of my favorite meals was the pepperoni and cheese and mayonnaise on a tortilla. I love that. I mean, that was good. I felt like I never got sick of that. But I don't know if the pepperoni was agreeing with me all that much. So there's that. Did you keep track of your step count? No, I did not.
A lot? No.
No, I have an Apple Watch, and so that I do that normally in my day-to-day life, but I did not want to take my Apple Watch because I did not want to have to charge it. I don't want to have anything else to charge, because you've got to charge your phone, you've got to charge your Garmin, you got to charge your, I had to charge my air pump, I had to charge my headlamp. Anything else we had to charge? So I didn't want anything else to charge. So no, I did not take it. And plus, I figured it didn't really matter.
Yeah. If you can say at the end of the day, because you've tracked where you were hiking or you're looking at the mileage from where you started to stop, you know how many miles you hiked. It's,
Yeah.
Different than every day just step counting.
Yeah. Okay, so with water and food, what was your average weight of your packs?
There's not really any way to measure it generally on trail. I was guessing that probably most time after a town stop, if there was a good water carry afterwards, it was probably around 30 pounds, sometimes more if you were carrying a lot of water. I mean, all hikers, but not everybody else remembers that 1 liter of water is 2.2 pounds. If you've got a 5-liter water carry, you're carrying 11 pounds of just water. And then food-wise, they say that you basically carry about 1 to 2 pounds, 1.5 to 2 pounds of food per day that you'll be out. So if you're going to be out for 6 or 7 days and you have a long water carry in there, you can be carrying a lot heavier pack than you are on the day you get to town and cross 2 streams.
I know we weighed our packs at Campo before we left, because they had a scale with food and water, and I think mine was 27.
Yeah, we were both right at 26, 27.
Yeah. Now, there was times when I'm sure it was 30 plus, and there was times when it was less, especially on the days we were coming into town, but on average probably around 30. All right, so here's some other questions we got from YouTube comments. I think this is Sheila. She would love to know about the logistics of Desolation Wilderness. Are there any permits required, mileages, resupply, and water situation? You'll have to talk about that because I was not there.
If you don't have the actual PCT long distance permit, which does cover you to hike through Desolation Wilderness within a certain short distance of the trail, I forget, it's not very far, so many yards or half mile, you have to stay within the PCT trail in the Desolation Wilderness on your PCT permit. If you get a Desolation Wilderness permit, you can just get that at the ranger station. We got it at the Tahoe Basin Management office for the Park Service, the Forest Service, and you do have to have a bear can when you're in the Desolation Wilderness. But we hiked from Echo Lake, which is basically South Lake Tahoe, and it's up the western side of Lake Tahoe, into Donner Pass, which the town that's near Donner Pass is Truckee. And we did not resupply in that whole 7 days. We carried the 7 days worth of food. People who do the Tahoe Rim Trail, it follows a little bit different path. A lot of them will stop in Tahoe City and do a resupply, which we passed where the cutoff to that was. So if you wanted to do that, but it would probably add an extra day to your hike. overall to get that same distance.
And there's water probably everywhere.
And there was a good bit of water. The longest water carry I remember was 8 miles.
This is from B. Berenson. I don't know if I'm saying that right. They're curious about what sections we hiked and what we skipped. Basically, we hiked everything from Campo
Just before Acton.
just before Acton. We did skip 11 miles. I think it was 11 miles. San Jacinto from the Fuller Ridge part. We went down Devil's Slide and up the Black Mountain Road, which equaled out to about the same mileage had we done the Fuller Ridge. Wasn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
But we did not do it at that time because of the snow was still there, and we were just not. We just didn't feel comfortable. And then Mount Baden Powell, there was a fire closure around there.
Wrightwood, between Wrightwood and Mount is the Wrightwood closure.
Right, Wrightwood fire closure. So we had to skip that because of the fire closure. But other than that, there was nothing else we skipped.
Mm-mm.
We did Mission Creek, the whole thing. A lot of people skipped that. But we did that. Yeah. Lynn Rose, what apps do you use for navigation and safety? The Far Out app. That is really good with navigation. I think pretty much, I would say 95% of
Probably,
people are.
Yeah. It's definitely the primary navigation tool that people use on trail. And it doesn't just apply to the PCT. Far Out as the app, you basically purchase the trail that you want to hike, or you can purchase an unlimited subscription. But it shows, just like in your car GPS that shows you where you are and then has the other landmarks along the way, it shows you where you are on the trail, so you can easily tell if you're off trail. It also will tell you from where you are what the closest water source is, forward or back. Now, you may have to look at that water source and verify it, but that's the other thing, is it lets people leave comments as they pass through there. So there'll be a comment that was dated for yesterday that says still flowing good, or there'll be a comment dated for last week that says, it was dry. So you look at the dates and what the comment was, and it helps you know if that's a reliable source and things. So it shows you that for the water sources. It shows you how much further ahead or behind your next campsite is. And of course, you can scroll up the map and see other campsites as well and stuff like that. So it's really, really useful, really, really hiker friendly. The only trouble is if it glitches, which it did do a couple times, or if your phone dies, then, and the trail is a well-beaten path. It's generally not hard to follow, but there was more than once that we got off trail, and if we hadn't had the app to refer to, it might have been more difficult to get back on trail.
Yeah.
I did carry paper maps, and was glad I did. I did refer to them a few times, or just to look at things. Sometimes it's easier to see something you're looking for specifically, one source than another. So, and the PCT, the Far Out app, really covers just within a certain distance around the trail as far as the information. So if you wanted to know something about a town that wasn't marked, or an area that wasn't marked on the PCT, you wouldn't see it on the app. Yeah, safety-wise, the Garmin app, and you can track yourself on the Garmin app. You can let other people track you on the Garmin app, and you've got that SOS button, which gets a response.
Yeah. Okay, so Michael Stump says, what did the night sky look like? Beautiful.
Yeah, because we were out west, there was not a lot of cloudy nights. The stars were pretty amazing. Matter of fact, there were a lot more nights than I would have expected. This might be one of those unexpected things, at how bright the sky was at night. When you're in the wilderness, even if you weren't near where you'd see town lights and stuff, sometimes you could, if you got up at night and had to go make a bathroom run, there was so much light you didn't even need your headlamp.
Yeah, especially on the full moon. But yeah, and when we did our cowboy camping, that was fun just to look up and see the stars at night. That was fun. Penny hikes. How much water did you typically have to carry in a desert section? I mean, that varied, and that would also depend upon the time of year you're there. But I think the most I carried was maybe 5 liters.
But an average would probably be most days
Average
about
three. Yeah, 2 to 3. And it also depends on how much water you drink. I can hike, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 miles with 1 liter. Where some people want to plan like 4 miles for 1 liter. Rock Flipper, for instance, he drank a lot more, and so he would always have more water.
It depends on how much you sweat, and if you're going to camp at night where you don't have water, then you do cook. That was one of the other reasons we didn't take a stove, because basically if you camp and you cook, your meal's going to take an extra 350 to 500 milliliters of water, and then if you're going to do anything at breakfast, you may need more. So it decreased the amount of water we needed by not carrying a stove.
Right. And then she asks, what month do you think is best to start from the southern border? We started March 16th, and I thought that was pretty perfect. I wanted to start early because I knew the heat was going to be an issue for me. So I would rather deal with cold and snow than I would the desert at 95, 100 degrees. So it really just depends. I feel like March is really good though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the majority of the people want April. Seems like. So yeah, I mean that's just, I don't know.
It's going, people have their own opinions of it. Less snow, later you go, but more heat, the later you go.
Right.
And some people talk too about getting to Kennedy Meadows too soon and not being able to start in the Sierras. I mean, not that you can't start in the Sierras, but most people, a lot of people start later, like after the 1st of June. Although there's a number of people who say May is a great month to start the Sierra. So it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah. Okay, so Brenna Lee, do you plan on doing the PCT in sections?
I think if we're able to go back, that is definitely what we would do. I think both of us figure that to set aside 6 months of your life or whatever time period, it's a lot of detail at home, arranging other things, and a lot of time away from your family. So yes, I would definitely prefer to go back and try to do it in sections. Even if we did like a month at a time, that's probably the longest I would want to go, I think, to go back out again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say never, that I would ever try to do the whole thing again, but I don't have any plans anytime soon. I think there's sections I really would love to go and see and do, but I don't know when that will be, because, I've got plans for next year, and so, anyway, it's just not as easy. A lot of people have said, when you come back next year, you can try again next year.
The trail's going to be there. The trail will be there,
right.
But it takes a lot of pre-planning to make things work out to attempt a through hike.
Well, and it's not in our backyard either. I mean, there's more expense for us to fly out there and then get arrangements to and from the trail and all of that, where the AT would be a whole lot more convenient if we wanted to try to do it in sections, because it's a lot closer to where we live. But anyway, we would like to do sections. That's the answer to that question. What changes would you make if you had to start again?
Again, my biggest change I would make if I started again would be to train with heavier weight and maybe try to train for more miles. But that's not always so easy to do, the more miles part, because if you work and you have other obligations, there's that part of life. But I would train with heavier weights.
I think what I would just make sure I'm really listening to myself and my body, and not trying to push myself for anybody else, if that makes sense. Like,
And one of the other things that might be along that same line, we talked about one of the things we maybe change or that we might like to do is, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, because we had wonderful people we hiked with, absolutely wonderful, but we never hiked just the two of us, which is kind of what we envisioned when we started out. And group dynamics plays into some of those decisions that you might do differently on your own versus what other people want to do and stuff like that. And we all made concessions, and like I say, everybody was great. I'm not knocking that, but you do just wonder what you might have done differently if it was just you versus doing it with a group.
Right, and I don't have any regrets. It's just
no, because they were really helpful too. It was wonderful to have a group in a lot of situations.
And that leads into one of the last questions was about our group. Where are they now, and do we still communicate with them? Well, do we still communicate with them? Yes, I think with every single person that we hiked with, we still communicate with them. Just a little background, like Rocky, for instance, Lucy. Rocky's her trail name, which I named her. We met her on the Facebook group. So we had not met her in person until we got there at Campo, but we had been communicating with her prior to our trip, and so we met her at Campo. Super Bloom, we met at Campo. We all had the same start date, so we basically started hiking with Rocky and Super Bloom from day one. Rocky got off trail from injury, and she actually went back and for a little bit. She's awesome. I mean, she is a fighter. That's why I gave her that name. And she is back home now, I believe. Right. And then we also hiked with Rock Flipper and Huckleberry. Huckleberry got off trail. That's in our videos. She just missed home and just wanted to be home, and that's understandable because it is a struggle, and you do miss your family for sure. And then Rock Flipper,
he's the one that's gonna make it all the way. He's out of our group.
He summited Mount Whitney. I think through the Sierras. Yeah.
Last time I communicated with him, I think he was at Sierra City, Truckee or Sierra City, and was going to something he had pre-planned, and then we'll be back on trail again.
Yeah. And Super Bloom is off trail, but she has hopes to get back on and do some of Oregon. I think that's it. I think that's everybody in our group. But yes, we still communicate with them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll hike with some of them again. I mean, we would love to. We'll just have to wait and see.
But thank you for asking the questions.
Yes.
I was at a family reunion last week, and I had people asking me a lot of those questions, because let's face it, aside from people who do a lot of hiking and backpacking, other people really just have no concept of all the details that go into it, or how do you do this, and
yeah. So I know this video is probably a really long video, but I felt like if you were interested, you'd watch. So thank you if you have watched and you've stuck around and listened to us answer these questions. As far as what our future plans are,
is to go backpacking.
We actually have a trip that we're going to do for Labor Day weekend. Will be my first backpacking trip. I'm really excited about it. I have been hiking. I've hiked 4 miles, is the most that I've hiked in one time, and I'm feeling good. So I'm getting stronger. So yeah, and then of course I've mentioned that me and my husband have a trip planned for this fall, which I'm excited about, and I'll be making videos on that. But yeah, we're still gonna hike. I'm still gonna be putting out videos, so hopefully you will
stick around and see some other things besides the PCT.
All right, well, thank you guys for watching, and
See you next time.
see you next time.